Hi, this is Jack Siegel, and currently in my room. And it's kind of weird trying to figure out if stuff's in the frame just kind of a little bit off, but based on the camera, supposedly it isn't. And apparently having two light sources, one that's a little bit stronger projecting upward, is kind of the original intention was to get rid of some shadows on the face, but that might not be working as well. But so I think I touched on the idea of having a little bit of incremental sort of improvement videos that are meant to be encouraging, inspiring, but also productive. And partly that came about, it was something that I was thinking about earlier, because sometimes we don't have a lot of time to do a lot, but sometimes there's enough to do just a little bit. And sometimes you can get decent growth simply by virtue of seeing if you have glasses to check the timer on that. So the thing is that from the book Development First, that was a book from years ago that I read, I believe it mentions that there's something that's called when you're doing growth, there's going to be stuff that there's the amount of time that you have and effort that you can put into something versus the returns. And so over time, when you start into projects, you can have low hanging fruit that will have a good amount of return for a low amount of investment of time, energy, and resources. And the thing is that if you want to get good or decent or have some refinement and improvement, that may be a good way to go, especially if your life is busy, it's kind of crazy, and you can't, for example, if you want to lose a ton of weight, you can't spend 16 hours at the gym and cook and do meal prepping for a bunch of stuff. But what you could do is maybe replace some of your meals with lower calorie options, maybe replacing your dinner options with more vegetables instead of carbohydrates, or have high protein sources and just a lower calorie package at the end of the night, which may just mean a little bit of alteration. But the thing is that if you're trying to cut down weight and you go from maybe you're eating a really large 800 to 1,000 calorie meal and you drop it down to 500 because you replace it, you keep the same volume by adding in vegetables and maybe whole foods. Like, for example, don't quote me on this exactly, but I think a banana may be about 100 to 150 calories, and it takes up a large amount of volume of space. But then you have like this um, one chocolate Reese's candy thing, and I think it's like a mixture. It's like a Take Five thing, and it's like 100 calories per little bar, and it tastes great. And as you can tell by excitement in my face, I like sweets. But it's 100 calories for a little thing. Two Oreo cookies, like 150. It's not saying it's necessarily bad, but if you're hungry, you're going to go through half a bag of Oreos. That's a lot of calories. So part of your system, your body is sated or satisfied, it feels full when there's enough stretching in your stomach to go like, hey, there's enough food in here, stop eating. And so you want stuff that is bulkier, that has bulk, that has fiber. Um, 4 apples is like maybe 400 calories, depending on the size of the apple, maybe about 100 calories each. And I used to do this as an example with personal training, which doesn't look like I do that right now, but we're working on it. But those 4 apples, you can imagine trying to eat 4 apples and it'd be a chore. But that's 400 calories now compared to like 4 Twinkies, which you can inhale. And compared to little over, was it 8 Oreo? No, not, is it 8 Oreos? No. Okay, two sets of Oreos is 300 calories. It seems really absurd trying to calculate this out. So 6 Oreos, you can eat those, all those, and unless you ate beforehand, that may not really be satisfying. Then you want to drink it down with something. And if it's a soda, that's an extra 150 calories. Now you have a 600-calorie meal that you may be somewhat satisfied, but it's a bunch of junk and unprocessed stuff. While with the apples, if you manage to get through 4 apples, 4 decent-sized apples, your jaws will probably be falling off their hinges at that point. And the thing is that one thing is you need the volume in your stomach. The next is that you need the time to process that, like, hey, we're full. It takes about 20 minutes for a signal down here to go here. I think it's like based on hormones or different chemical signaling. So it's not like the, not neural reflex, the, ugh. No, it's like I have a background in biology of like years ago and it's like dusty. And so there's, when you touch something, you get that impulse almost immediately. There's technically some lag, but the thing is that you feel it really quickly, while some other processes, like again, your stomach, it takes a minute for it to register up here. And that's why you can gorge yourself for about 20 or 30 minutes, and then afterwards you're like uncomfortably full. So where we're going, this is probably a good reason why I need to just sit down with note cards and organize my thoughts. But that's the thing. There's going to be random things that you want to achieve and do. And again, the lower hanging fruit may be simply saying like, hey, can we, with losing weight, can we adjust our eating routine so that way we eat more unprocessed foods? So that way it's bulkier, it's larger, it will feel more physically full. We find more nutritious options that will also convince your body like, hey, there's omega-3s, there's a high amount of protein. We don't need to eat anymore. And so those options will ideally, this is where you need to make sure you're doing some measurements, because if you're trying to lose weight, a pound of fat is 3,500 calories. And 3,500 calories is, that's all it is. It's just, do you get that over course of a whole year, 10 calories a day, or do you get it over one Christmas sitting? It sounds pretty crazy, but the thing is that, maybe over 3 days, right? Just keep eating the pecan pie, which has a ridiculous amount of calories, but it tastes amazing. So the thing is that tweaking stuff, looking at your diet and saying like, hey, maybe I can cut out the soda, which is 150 calories a day. Easy change. Now, again, you may still have the addiction to it, and it may be because it's caffeine or it's because it's sugar, and so you need a healthier alternative. Adding the sugar-free little flavor packets may help. Even there's some flavor packets also have a registered amount of caffeine, so you can start whittling that down. And adding in a sleep into your routine, 7 to 8 hours of sleep, is what's recommended mostly. And that will get you to a point where after 2 weeks, your body's going to have the time that it needed to repair itself and rejuvenate itself. And so you're going to be thinking clearer and you won't have the fatigue thing. If you're still having fatigue, that may lead into separate issues of, say, for example, sleep apnea. And the thing is that you may have a crazy schedule, but if what I've heard about it is that you're not getting enough oxygen while you sleep, you're actually waking up throughout the night because your brain doesn't have oxygen. So it's just trying to wake up. And the thing is, if you're doing that several times in an hour or several times during the night, you're not really going to have that rested sleep. But if you have that oxygen going in, then changing that one thing may go from making you feel sleep deprived and low energy to having a huge return. And so it may be a moderate amount of investment, time, and resources, but over time, it's going to have a huge return for you. So the thing is that, it seems like we're throwing darts, right? Like, hey, what about this or what about that? And, it lands and then we try to go towards it. But what about a more integrated approach? And the original reason I came on here was because a friend was mentioning SMART goals. And it's just that perhaps it might be better to, sorry, the original idea was like, hey, grab a prop out of frame, not out of mind. And, start writing your dreams, your visions, you know, those things that are inspired by God or that maybe you had when you were a kid. Brian Tracy mentions the idea that, and he may have taken it from someone else, but the essence is that if you're having that idea, it's most likely you have the capacity to do it. Try to keep it moral and ethical. And sometimes the things that we think we want isn't actually what we want. You know, I may have to think about people. You may have to think about people or the specifics and ask like, hey, is this person or is this thing really what I want, or is it representative? What is my ideal in that thing that I observe or that person that I observe that makes me say, wow, I want that. I want to be with them. And understanding that so that way when we take that vision or dream and we try to define it as a goal, we can be like, that beautiful person represents to me that not exactly just the ideal aesthetic physically, but they have a heart of gold that makes me smile when I see them being generous and thoughtful to other people. Or it might be that this guy isn't freaking out half the time because he's not worried about driving off the road. Uh, there's something to be said about maybe drawing art. And the thing is that that may be a passion to pursue. That whether it's supposed to be a career move or just something that just makes you feel more alive, it's okay. There's a book, I think it's the five questions. No, five secrets you should know before you die. I think it was. Anyway, one of the things that discussed was that you're the thing that really fulfills you may not be your job, but you can do it on the side. And so I think specifically that person mentioned that he was a medicine man of sorts, and he would be performing those sort of rituals and serving the community that way, while at the same time he was also a powerful public speaker, presenter. Again, it's been a while since I remember the book, but that came to mind first. He has a lot of personal anecdotes that were really cool to listen to. But the thing is that, as you're trying to make a more fulfilling life, and sometimes it's just saying like, hey, just lean against the wall. Sorry, I had no clue how far back that was. So I'm like leaning back. It's like, where's the wall? Where's the, oh, there we are. And realizing that we can take a moment and breathe, sit down with a notepad and paper and just dream and just write. And the worst case scenario is that you have a chance to think about things and reflect on them and imagine what it could be. It's okay to be vain and want to lose weight because this just looks slightly pregnant. And I'm like, no, that's, I think I'm currently at 215 and this is probably about 15 to 20 pounds of just fat, maybe closer to like 30. And the thing is that the rest of the body looks proportioned, but it's hidden well, if you couldn't tell, except on camera. Apparently, black does not slim anything down from that angle sitting in the car. But the thing is that it's okay to have those silly things. Not everything has to have significance to the greater order of the universe or to God in a sense of that he cares about everything. But he may say like, hey, you know, as you go towards your weight loss journey, you're going to be doing other things. Keep the other things the main thing. And I think as a Zen art of management, and I couldn't find the book again. But one of the cool things was that if you have processes in place that help you achieve your goal or your outcome, Going back to the idea of visions and goals being broken down into SMART goals, visions and dreams being broken down into SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, or relevant, and time bound. And the thing is that now that we can touch it, we know what it looks like, we know that we're capable of it, and that we have a time frame to accomplish it in. We know if we're walking towards it or not. And the thing is that there's going to be some things that are more important to achieve and others that are less important to achieve. But at the very least, if we have our processes in place that keeps us making progress daily, simply removing 150 calories a day from your diet prevents you from doing what's called creeping obesity. In college, there's the idea that you don't gain an extra 10 to 15 pounds within a single week. It's over the course of a whole year. And that's just an extra 150 calories that becomes, 3,000 calories, 4,500 calories at the end of the month. 3,000 is a little bit easier to calculate, which becomes 36,000 calories at the end of the year, which is about 10 pounds of body fat. But all that aside, dream first. Just start there. If you can't do anything else, just sit down with yourself, clear out some part of your schedule, and just dream. And, I was on the phone earlier with a mother, and I could hear her kids in the background, and they were really loud. And it's just like, it may be difficult to get that alone time with God or with yourself, even to just listen and dream and hope and just daydream instead of rushing around to everything else. So take a moment, dream, envision, and play. And don't worry about the how, just the what and the why. What inspires you, what makes your heart go like, wow, that'd be amazing. Like imagine having the washboard abs, or at least looking nicer, right? Or maybe moving up in your field, or switching to a field that may give you the money that you want or the status that you want. Still vanity, grasping for the wind, but there might be something that God would do with it, or at least in your case, that may be the difference between having a life and just barely making it. It's okay. It's just what can we do in the moment? But even before that, just figure out where you want to go. Without a vision, the people will perish. But as Steve Furtick said, a different translation is, without a vision, the people will cast off restraint and not put in the work to get to where they want to go. Because the thing is that, without that thing burning inside you, there's going to be times when you're tired, depressed, discouraged, and you have to discipline yourself to say, I'm just going to do this one step to get a little bit further because I know it's important. I don't feel it, but I have to do it anyway because it's important to me. Or if you love God with everything you have, it's important to Him. So, if you honor God with everything you have, then congratulations, there's your motivation. Still working on that. Anywho, God bless you.